And hello, movie lovers, and welcome to the show. With me, I have Jason from It's Not That Bad podcast. We're here to talk about Demolition Man, the movie that predicted everything. And how did we know that this would actually be the future that we would be looking at? Minus the fact that Taco Bell is not the winner of the fast food chain yet. So that's like maybe the only thing that might have gone wrong. But, anyways, let's go ahead. Let's talk about this. I'm excited to have Jason back here again. So let's go ahead. Let's welcome him back. And hey, Jason, welcome back.
Greetings and salutations, John. How are we doing?
I'm doing fantastic. Make that. I take that back. I'm doing fucking fantastic. Now I'm going to be fined 1 credit.
You have been fined 1 credit for violation of the moral. Oh, jeez, the Verbal Moralities Act. There it is. Apparently I can't speak English today. I'm sorry to everyone in advance.
It's okay. We're just going to have to get. We either have to get Siri to reboot him, or we're going to have to get Alexa to reboot him. It's perfect. It's going to be perfectly fine. But I just want to say, welcome back.
I'm filled with joy feelings right now if I can't speak English.
True, you're all tongue tied. But you know what though? It's always a pleasure to have you on the show. It's always fun just geeking out with you over movies. So welcome back once again. And guys, if you're listening to this podcast last year, we actually covered, me and Tamika, we ended up covering Rush Hour 2 for Black History Month. So go ahead, check that out where you guys get your podcast. But tonight is Demolition Man. So my question is this, like, when were you the first time that you heard about Demolition Man? What did you think of it nostalgically? How did you hold this in your heart? Best out of 10 for this.
Okay, I am going to put this right out on Front Street and lay my bias out for everyone right now. This is in my top 5, top 3, and maybe my top 1 Sylvester Stallone films of all time. So that's kind of laying it out there. If I take a look at my top 3, it's probably going to be something like Rocky 4, because just the cheese value of it. Right. Oscar, which is an unheralded gem from his filmography, and this stands right above all of those. Oscar flip-flops with it, depends on the mood I'm in. So looking back at this, I mean, I remember when this came out, and of course, like, it's around that time where you've got Stallone doing all these kind of underrated gems. You know, this is around like the Judge Dredd time as well, and I still actually really enjoyed that one. But this one, the fact that it's a lot smarter than people will give a Stallone movie credit for, and the fact that the director really only did like 1 other major film after this, like, it's insane how you just drop the mic. Here's perfection. I'm done. See you. Bye.
Exactly. And you know what? I actually agree with you on that though too. Is like, this movie is smart and it's playing into the future of what we think in the 90s the future would be like. And they also talked about experimentation with freezing bodies and stuff like that, because some people do freeze their bodies to either donate for science or to see if they will be able to be defrosted and live out into the future of 2026, for example. But this movie is very smart. It knew what it wanted to be. Not only did it know what it wanted to be, but I also feel like Stallone is not really playing like an over-the-top action star in this one. I feel like that he's a little bit more grounded to the fact that he understands the formula for this movie.
There's a certain humility to John Spartan. There's the machismo of, you know, send a maniac to get a maniac. There's some typical, you know, super action hero one-liners throughout this film, but John Spartan is actually one of the more relatable action heroes that he has played, where you can sit there and you can almost understand why he is the way he is, and you can almost appreciate his complete and utter bafflement of this future that he has been thawed into.
I can actually see that too, because you can actually, basically, the world forgot about him. And, you know, he used to be this big guy that where people would actually probably look up to him as a Demolition Man to take down the biggest guy that you can get. And then, you know, next thing you know, your career's over with. People forgot about you because now you're doing time in prison for something that wasn't technically your fault. And then your family's over there they die eventually over time. Your daughter's probably somewhere that you don't even know where she's at. So you actually get to basically just be able to just hug him and like, hey, look, dude, I get it. I can relate to you.
Hmm.
So
And I don't want to make you feel old here, or I don't want to make anyone feel old here. But you do realize we are now 6 years away from John Spartan being thawed out.
yeah, I just realized that with 2030. So in 3 years he'll be released again.
Hmm.
But
We're already like 16 years past the big earthquake. So
right. So, it's coming. It's probably gonna come soon. No, I don't know yet.
no.
But though, like for me as a kid seeing this, and you know what? I still hold this nostalgically like at a 9. Nostalgically. What
You
about
know
for you?
what? I'm still putting this up there. I think I agree with you. Like around a 9, maybe a 9.5. The fact that, you know, how many years after this film comes out and I'm still giddy as all hell to watch this. Like I'm never not ready to watch Demolition Man. If it's on regular TV, I'll watch it with the commercials. If I pull out a DVD, I'm going to watch the DVD. So the fact that after all this time it still has that, that ability to make me smile whenever it comes on, like that says something.
It really does, because that's something that really captures me is every single time it would be on DirecTV, for example, I would actually watch it on DirecTV. It didn't
Mhm.
matter if it was the commercial on USA or if even though they screw up the whole entire dialogue whenever he's cussing, which gets on my nerves, but I'll still go on ahead and watch it. If it's on HBO, I'll watch it. I actually picked this up on 4K just recently for the review, just so I can actually have it anytime I want to watch it. And I still find myself just being giddy. I find myself laughing at the same jokes. Not only do I find myself laughing at the same jokes, I'm also sympathizing with John Spartan uh, through this movie. There are things that I forgot that happened in the movie because of how long it's been. But nostalgically, I'm a 9, and also too, I still remember the card. I actually still remember the Taco Bell commercials for this. I remember seeing Wesley Snipes in the commercial. I still remember John Spartan coming down from the helicopter and they're having this cut dialogue from the trailer, and there's the Taco Bell symbol. And I
See,
also remember the action figures.
See, it was a little weird for us because like I grew up in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada. And with the time this movie came out, we did not have Taco Bell where we were. Now, there were Taco Bells in Canada, like bigger cities like Toronto, so I remember being on the road and it's like, "Oh, there's a Taco Bell here. We don't have that back home. This is new. This is cuisine we don't get back at home. Hit me with those burritos." You regret it afterwards. You all of a sudden realize why it's called taco smell. But the thing is that in the international version, that's like the one thing that changed. They overdubbed everyone saying Pizza Hut, and they superimposed some signs in there. The only thing they couldn't change was the actual Taco Bell logo on the glass, like the frosted logo on the glass. Everything else, they did their best to say Pizza Hut. And we had Pizza Hut, but Taco Bell was more interesting.
Right, because I can imagine like someone from Canada that never even experienced Taco Bell is like, yeah, I experienced Pizza Hut plenty of times, but I want to know what it actually tastes like to go to a restaurant of Taco Bell
Right?
and
We
figure out
we
what the hype is.
We don't have an In-N-Out burger. We don't have a Sonic. There are a lot. We don't have White Castles. We don't have a lot of the fast food joints that they have in the States. So, we're kind of missing some food up here, but at least we have our Taco Bells now. I can enjoy Taco Bell.
And you know what? We actually have Sonics down here and no
Yeah.
In-N-Out burgers down here in the South.
Mm.
So there you go. So yeah, now that we talked about this movie nostalgically, now we're going to go ahead and rip it apart by talking about it through stripping away the nostalgia and giving you guys a modern day rating. So, welcome to the future, where toilet paper has 3 seashells. Taco Bell has won the franchise wars, and saying the word murder gets you fined faster than a parking ticket. That's right, today we're diving into Demolition Man, the movie that somehow predicted self driving culture, cancel culture, in a society where fun is illegal. I'm your host, John, and joining me is the psycho prison of bad predictions and even worse fashion choices. We're asking the big questions. How did this movie know so much? Why is Wesley Snipes having the time of his life? And how does Stallone not know how to use toilet paper? So grab your rat burger, rack up a few verbal morality violations, and let's thaw this bad boy out. Because today on Movie Lovers Night, we're reviewing Demolition Man, the most polite dystopia where you put your film on. So, with that being said, scene one. In 1996, psychopathic career criminal Simon Phoenix kidnaps a busload of hostages and takes refuge in an abandoned building. LAPD Sergeant John Spartan, nicknamed the Demolition Man, for the large amounts of collateral damage the offense causes in apprehending suspects, mounts an unauthorized assault to capture Phoenix. When a thermal scan of the area reveals no trace of the hostages, he raids the building and confronts Phoenix, who sets off an explosive and destroys it. The hostages' corpses are later found in rubble, and Phoenix claims that Spartan knew about them and attacked anyways. Both men are sentenced to literally terms in the city's new California Cyro penitentiary, in a prison in which convicts a frozen and exposed to subliminal rehabilitation techniques. So this opening scene, I really love the look of the Hollywood sign burning and this apocalyptic world in 1997. And it's kind of weird on how they have this apocalyptic world in which I would think that it would be more of today's time, and in 2030, where John is actually thought out versus it being 1996. But I like the look of the burning sign of Hollywood. I also like the look of the way that he's going in there, looking around, and also to seeing through thermal vision that there's no hostages. And we also don't even see any. Here's the thing: just as we don't see any hostages, Stallone also doesn't see any hostages either. So we're wondering, okay, where's this busload of people? Because you're expecting to see a bus, you're expecting to see everything, but no, it's just Simon there. And it's just this back and forth banter between the two of them. But what did you think of the opening scene?
I love the fact that, the world of 1996 LA really feels almost like a red herring for the rest of the film, right? It is your typical action scene. It is your typical, send in the action hero to stop the bad guy and things get blown up, and it really is very much every single like almost like 80s early 90s action movie. And then you have to really sit there and think, wow, 36 years later and you have a utopia. And I'm actually quite fascinated. Like, can you imagine? I would love to see some kind of, whether it be a novel or comic book or graphic novel or something like that, that basically shows how we got from 1996 and the hellscape of LA as it's ruled by Simon Phoenix to 2032. Because I mean, in 36 years, things can change, but that's a massive, drastic shift. How, like, you're changing the entire thought process of the people, as opposed to just like, oh yeah, we have new technology and whatever. But the cool thing about this is that for once, the cop who basically does more damage than the criminal's actually worth actually faces consequences. This is the biggest thing that people complain about superhero movies all the time, right? Batman versus Superman, Dawn of Justice. Exactly how much of Metropolis has to be blown up. Same thing with Man of Steel, right? How many Avengers films are going to destroy entire cities before people face a little bit in Civil War because of the Sokovia Accords? But
Right.
here, you actually have the fact that he made this explosion. He accidentally killed the hostages. There's actual consequences for the good guy as well as the bad guy. So the fact that it actually does that allows you to sit there and go, well, maybe this is the catalyst. Maybe this is that nexus point in time that starts to change everything towards a utopic 2032.
Right. And I like the fact that how both men are not innocent. They're both guilty of something. You
Mhm.
know, and it does definitely does go into the whole consequences thing of now finally the action hero is now on trial for something that he did, even though he didn't mean to do it, even though we're supposed to cheer him on as buildings are being destroyed, people are dying, and we finally have consequences where we mention bodies that are laid out on the ground. You know, because before they used to just ignore the whole entire thing. It was like, it's just other casualties, it's just extras in movies, it doesn't really matter. They're just, you know, they're just there for collateral damage and we don't even talk about it. But the fact that they even talk about it and mention them
Mhm.
and you realize, oh, Stallone, John Spartan shit the bed, you know, on this one because of the
Yeah, I
fact
mean,
yeah.
how many times do you have to sit there and watch an action film and go, "Huh, I wonder what the actual body count is?"
Exactly, because I'm wondering too, like, what's the body count on these people that died? And then they tell you, and then like, oh, this is no wonder why they want to freeze him. And yes, it's Simon, and you also have John Spartan who actually have beef with each other. But instead of John Spartan's all is just like he's so wrapped up in trying to get him that he ignores everything else, and his main target is just Simon Phoenix.
Mhm.
That's it. And Simon knows that. If I can get him riled up enough and pissed off enough, they lure him in here. I can get exactly what I want out of him, just as he can get something out of me, which is myself. But what's the consequence behind it? You know what I mean? Like, was it worth? Yeah, you got Simon Phoenix, but what was it worth it
Yeah.
in the end?
Exactly. How much property damage was done? How much is the city going to have to deal with? The fact that it's clear he's doing this against the will of his own police department, so he's already violating orders. But again, it also sets up the same parallel. At what point does someone have to pay for how many buildings Superman destroys before Lex Luthor is taken in? And he's only going to get out of prison again. That's the thing here. He's captured Simon Phoenix is going to go to prison. Yes, he gets cryo frozen and whatnot, but how many times has Phoenix been captured and then got out? You have to think that at some point, the salary of the cop is not going to cover the damages of the cop.
No, it's not. And at this point, it's probably just collateral damage on everything. You know
And
what I'm
it
saying?
seems like the perfect trap that Simon Phoenix, like he had an excuse ready to go. It's almost like he planned for this to happen. He knew that those hostages were already dead, or at least
Exactly.
close to dying. He knew that he could pin it on Spartan because of all the damage and all the explosions. No one's in there. No one knows exactly what went down. They don't know that, if Simon Phoenix didn't put the knife into the barrels of gasoline and all that. They don't know what happened in there. All they can really do is take Simon Phoenix's word, not that you would really want to, but all you see is an exploded building level to the ground. The bodies of the hostages are in the rubble, and both are to blame.
Exactly. Both men are to blame for this. And then what I like is the fact of the smack talk that Simon Phoenix does to actually rile him up.
Mhm.
He goes as if he was expecting him, and then I like how he has a blowtorch and he's gonna go on ahead and try to make the building explode, but he doesn't, and he allows John Spartan to make that move. And I also like the fact that you're dealing with a smart villain in this movie. It's
Mm.
not really dubbed down.
Yeah, no. This is the closest you're going to get to the Joker without going full Joker. Simon Phoenix is such a delicious villain, and Wesley Snipes is just dancing his way through this role. He's having fun with it. He's a joy to watch. He's the kind of villain you're like, "Yeah, get there."
Right? And I also like how John is like, "You're under arrest, Phoenix." He goes, "Arrest? Shit. And you're trespassing." So I like how he's acting like he's in the right while John's also in the wrong and everything. It's just that juxtaposition of, these two people together is just total chaos.
Mhm. And it also says the idea that they have, Spartan's been chasing him for a long time. And as with any, hero villain kind of duo that you're going to get, and I keep drawing parallels to the comic books, but let's be honest, it's kind of like a comic book movie.
It is Batman and Joker, though, if you think
It is
about it.
Batman and Joker. It is Superman and Lex Luthor. It is Flash and any one of the Flash's rogues gallery. You have someone who, you know, will go to any lengths to catch the villain, and the villain's going to go to any lengths to trip up the hero. The fact that Simon Phoenix can make Spartan just as bad as him, it's that old line from Batman: The Killing Joke, right? Where the Joker's like, "You're one bad day away from becoming me."
Exactly. And that's what I'm getting from this, though, too. And then whenever you take him outside, right, where we finally get like the back and forth with the captain, with Captain Hilly, he's like, "Damn it, Spartan, I'm tired of this demolition shit. You're not supposed to come down here. You're not supposed to appear, Simon Phoenix. You're not supposed to blow anything up. It wasn't me. He dumped the gas and he placed the rig to blow." And so, trying to force blame, trying to be innocent, trying to do his job. Yeah, your job was to take him in. It wasn't your job to go ahead. And even though your name is Demolition Man, it doesn't mean that have to make the buildings explode. But here
Mhm.
you are. And then even though he's like, "Look, I ended up scanning the whole building with infrared, and I seen that the building was empty." And then you have Simon over there laughing his ass off the whole time while this is happening.
Yeah, it's the chess move, right? It's the,
Yep.
"Oh, I knew you were gonna scan this building with X-ray. I knew how you were gonna come in, so I made sure that you weren't going to find the hostages even though they are here." It's that chess game, right? And you don't get that without the idea of a villain and a hero, or in this case, the criminal and the cop, who have been adversaries and this cat and mouse chase game for Lord knows how long. You have to think this is at least 2-3 years in the making, building up to this point from their fictional backstory.
Right. That's what I'm thinking too. Even though you don't see the backstory, but you can see the histories there between the two of them as they're talking. So I think
Mhm.
less is more with them doing it that way and not having us show everything. Because they're
Oh
actually
god, yeah.
treating the audience as if they're smart. And that's something that I really like about this movie is that letting the audience in on everything. And
Oh,
instead of
yeah.
like, let me show you this.
Yeah, no, the
Uh,
the script is smart in that, don't bore us, get to the chorus, right? So we don't need a backstory. We don't need a series of, spinning, rotating newspaper headlines to kind of lay it out for us. Dump us right into the middle of the chaos. The audience is smart enough to figure it out and to put two and two together just from the interaction between Phoenix and Spartan. And they did it so well in a way that you know everything without being told everything.
exactly. And then I also like how we finally get into the prison area, and it's not a normal prison or anything like that. Then you find out, oh, they're gonna freeze them until they actually their time's expired.
Mhm.
So you're thinking, okay, this is actually justice because of the fact that, let's say for instance that Simon has a family, right? He lose all everything that he knew. Forget about his friends or henchmen if anybody worked for him. He's gonna be in the past. No one's gonna even remember him by then,
Mhm.
which is also worse for a criminal. Be forgotten,
The
you know?
thing is, though, and you put it out there, you have to think that there are psychologist profiles on Simon Phoenix before he gets captured. So Simon Phoenix doesn't strike me as the guy who'd be all, teary-eyed and bleary-eyed because, he's frozen and, 36 years later, his family's gone. I don't think he gives a damn about any
No,
family that he has if he hasn't already killed them by this point.
at this point,
John
it's expendable.
Yeah, but for someone like John Spartan, this is a harsher
Mhm.
punishment, even though he's getting the same punishment as Simon Phoenix, yet Simon Phoenix is the one who also has the kidnapping charges on him. This is the one thing where I sit there and go, Spartan, I can see being cryo frozen, and even the fact that the warden at the time is like, "I'm sorry," yeah, he's freezing the cop. He has no choice in the matter, but you can see that there's at least a modicum of respect as he's going into the cryo chamber. Simon
Yeah,
Phoenix should have been put to death. I mean, yes, it'd be a shorter movie. We wouldn't be talking about this, but roll credits. It's a 20-minute movie, but the fact that they put Simon Phoenix into the cryo freeze as well means at some point in time you're going to release Simon Phoenix. I don't think he's going to change at all.
No, he's going to be the same piece of shit that he was there before he even went into that freezer, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And then all they did before is just enhance his behavior coming out of it. So we'll talk about that in a few minutes, but yeah, you're absolutely right. And then we don't know anything about John Spartan until he actually comes out of there and has been thawed out back in 2032. So we don't know that he has a family. We don't know he has a daughter up until the point where they mention the fact that he has a wife and he has a daughter and he lost everything because of this. But it's also his own consequences, like you mentioned, that brought him there. And yes, it sucks that this person has to tell him, hey, look, I hate to put you in this freezer, but we're going to have to do this.
Yeah. This is one of those things where you sit there and think that Spartan's consequences are more not necessarily because of the actions that he did, but the worst part is that he knows that he's the one. Everything is because of him. He's losing out on any future with his wife and his daughter because of his own actions, because of his own, insane, insatiable need to capture Simon Phoenix. And it's the whole, Batman is a crazed vigilante kind of thing. He's not going to stop, even though he has something to live for.
Exactly. That's actually how I see it, though, as well. Like, he has a lot to lose. Simon doesn't have anything to lose. So, really, you could just execute the guy, put a lethal injection in his arm, or electrocute him and call it a day. But I guess, like, eye for an eye, so it has to match the same crime. I don't know.
It's hard to say, but again, like I said, we'd be dealing with a much shorter movie if that were the case.
Exactly. So now we're in 2032, the city of San Angeles, a megapolis formed from the merger of Los Angeles, San Diego, and Santa Barbara, a seemingly peaceful utopia designed and run by Dr. Raymond Catius. Phoenix is thawed for a parole hearing, I don't know why, and escaped from the Syro prison by saying a secret password without knowing how he had learned it. He subsequently murders his guards and the warden, making his way into the city where he easily overpowers and kills several police officers who have never had to deal with violent crime. Lieutenant Lena Huxley, an idealistic officer who is fascinated with the 20th century and learns about Spartan's career from veteran officer Zachary Lamb, who suggests that the best chance to stop Phoenix is to enlist an officer with the experience and mindset needed to anticipate his actions. So what I like about this is now we actually see the future. We actually see Lena Huxley, who originally was supposed to be played by the woman in the army now, in Tank Girl, which is actually
Lori
one of my
Petty,
favorite movies. Yeah. And I can actually see her saying these same lines that Sandra Bullock was, but because of conflicts on the set, I believe, or something like that, she wasn't able to do the movie. But I do like the delivery of Sandra Bullock doing this.
This is, as much as I love this for Stallone, I really love this for Sandra Bullock. She brought just a sheer innocence to this role, like just a naivete. Lori Petty's great. I love Tank Girl. It's such a fun film.
It is.
But I think you want someone. Lori Petty feels like the kind of character who would be a bit more of a streetwise cop, would be a bit more snarky.
Stallone.
Yeah, exactly. With Lena Huxley as being played by Sandra Bullock, you do get that very naive, very head in the clouds kind of vibe about what it was like in the 90s and everything that she's remembering and idolizing. It was such a fun performance and almost completely unironic. Like, you could believe that Lena Huxley was that not oblivious, but almost misled by her own
peers
idolizing of the era.
Right. Because she thinks it's all action, like it's supposed to be like an action movie in the world of 1996, basically. Because if you remember the movie memorabilia that she has, the contraband that she has on her desk with the Lethal Weapon 3 movie, and then you also have something else. So according to her, that's what the world is supposed to look like because of the fact there's no crime. And she was born into a society that she doesn't even know what crime actually is and does never experience crime.
Yeah.
So I can understand why she would actually relate to maybe 30, 40 years later because of the fact that she's never experienced it. So the closest thing to it is like Lethal Weapon, where you have Mel Gibson or John Spartan, for example, looking at files and
Yeah.
being real, like just being horny for him,
Well,
you know?
absolutely. I mean, that's the other thing too, right? I mean, literary heads are gonna, sit there and go, "Oh, Lenina Huxley, great, Brave New World." I get it, I get it. But the other thing too is that how often do you hear the phrase like, "Oh, we're gonna make it like the good old days," right? And it's usually about like looking at 30 years ago, roughly. When really, when you actually take a look at 30 years ago, was it really that good? It's the same thing here. And the funny thing is now we're at this point. We are 30 years after, the fictional events that got Simon Phoenix and John Spartan frozen. So you could almost take a look at that from a very accurate time frame of where Lenina Huxley would be. If you take a look back at the 90s, yeah, the music is good, but was the decade that good? Maybe, maybe not.
Exactly. It's according to how we feel nostalgically on how we
Mhm.
feel about it. You know what I mean? Like, okay, music was good, but was it really as good as we remember it to be?
Mhm. Yeah,
Because
you
I
have
can
you have
remember.
graduation glasses on.
Right, exactly, because I can remember, like, I'm looking at old stuff from back when I was a kid from the '90s. I do this sometimes, looking through YouTube, looking through old nostalgia stuff, and I'm like, "Man, I wish I lived in those days as a kid." Then I'm like, "Wait, what was my parents going through?" Because now I'm thinking as an adult, I go from childhood to adulthood really quick. I'm like, "What was my parents dealing with? Was it
Yeah.
really good for them, or was it just good for me?" At this time, you know what I'm saying? Because I'm a kid, I'm experiencing things differently than what my parents are. So I'm thinking I'm having nothing but a good time to quote Poison. But, but or hold on, a Queen, my bad. But,
No, nothing but a good
I
time. Was Poison as well. That was their first
yep,
album.
yep, that's true.
Look what the cat
But
dragged in.
but it's like do I remember those days as well as I need to? Or did somebody else go through different trials and tribulations than what I did?
Yeah. And the interesting thing too is like, we get to this point and we're meeting Lenina Huxley and everyone at the precinct, and just the general happiness of everybody. And this is the stark contrast to 36 years prior. And you get the idea of what the cocktail plan is. Everyone is, you know, non-contact, non-confrontational, non-violent, everything not today. So it's one of those things where how did they get there? I mean, obviously you can take a look at, the big earthquake from 2010 that they reference in here, and obviously something had to change. But you still have like little snippets here and there that you kind of see throughout where it's like maybe not everything is as peachy keen, perfect, and commercial jingle happy as everything is made out to be.
Right. And you know what though? I do like the police station and everybody's all friendly. They're not on edge or anything. They're just basically firefight like 1960s firefighters taking kittens out of trees at this point,
Hmm.
if you think
Yeah, it's
about it.
it's Andy of Mayberry all over again. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just in 2030 instead. And I like how and here we have Rob Schneider before Judge Dredd. I think that Rob was just basically trying to figure out what kind of actor he wanted to be or trying to pick certain roles that would actually pay the bills. But I
Yeah.
do like seeing Rob in there for this comedic role.
This is actually one of the better Rob Schneider roles I find. Judge Dredd, his character kind of got a little annoying. I'll be very honest, but here it's almost like the perfect amount of Rob Schneider for this film because you don't want it to take away from the main characters. Of course, the main characters, at least on the good guy side, being Stallone, Sandra Bullock, and Benjamin Bratt. Those are the three that are actually your main, good guys that you're going to follow. Just a little bit of Rob Schneider to put in that snark, and that's about it. That's all you need him for.
Exactly. And I think if Rob went over the top like he did in Judge Dredd, it would be where Rob is here, Bullock is here at a medium.
Yeah.
He's trying to overplay everybody. This is just more of a subtleness to it. It's like just coworkers. Hey, good morning. Just, doing their little hand thing that they do and just greeting one another.
Yeah.
And then, I just love the fact that, you've had this police department that's just all friendly. Yeah, all except the sergeant, of course, the captain, who's really uptight. Of course, you always have to have one of those in action movies.
Right.
But
Probably
I
the
do like
best
the
Rob
introduction.
Schneider. Yeah, probably the best Rob Schneider line in this whole thing, aside from making fun of Stallone with the three seashells, is when he's on the headset when taking a call. It's like, if you'd rather talk to a recording, please press 1. I'm like, yeah, that would probably be this future.
Yep, definitely. And I also like how Lena is actually kind of bored with her job because she even has to check in with the governor or whatever to say, "Hey, look, is everything okay? Is there any crime? No, there's no crime. Okay, this sucks." It's not what
Right.
she thought it was gonna be.
Yeah. What, there was graffiti? Why wasn't there an all points bulletin?
I love, and then then all of a sudden it just disappears. Right? It goes, "Life sucks." I'm like, wow, way to send a message. You couldn't think of anything else more creative.
Yeah.
Is what I was thinking.
When the anti-graffiti device kicks in.
Right. But then I also like how we have Simon Phoenix finally getting out of prison. I do like the action sequences in that the fight choreography still works. I also like how he ends up telling the password and he doesn't even know how it is. He goes, "Shit, I wish I knew. I don't know what I'm doing." He's just making it up as he goes.
Mm-hmm. That's where this movie gets it right too. It doesn't spoon feed you right away. It gives you little bits along the way. Eventually you figure out how he knows so much and why he is, much more dangerous than he was 36 years ago. But it doesn't throw a ton of exposition at you. It lets you discover that along the way. This film, aside from being like, really smart and really fun, it's also very well paced, and it doesn't overload you and feels like it has to tell you everything that's going to happen before it happens. No. This film, much like the very opening scene from 1996, this film takes or at least gives the viewer a lot of credit for being able to figure things out for themselves, or not, allow them to be able to discover it along the way.
I agree. And I also like how he takes he ends up talking Spanish to them as well, talking smack in Spanish, repeating everything that the warden is saying, and then he winds up taking the eyeball to scan the eyeball to get out of prison, and then he just walks off, and then he drives somebody else's car out of there.
Mm-hmm.
And then Lena Huxley realizes there's actually a notification going on Rob Schneider's screen, and she's like, "What's going on over here, over at the freezer plant?" I forgot what it's called, but
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, there's murder, death kills." Well, there hasn't been murder, death kills since da 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 da. Well, guess what? Now it's your lucky day because you're about to experience things that you never experienced.
We're police officers. We're not trained to handle this
We're not
violence.
trained for this. And I like how proud they are whenever they find Phoenix's car and they stop it. And like, good job. Yeah, good job.
The fact that Simon Phoenix has to interrupt a guy getting his daily affirmations from this computer. And then this is kind of what I was talking about too, where how it kind of, the world isn't exactly as joy feeling as you make it out to be, because here's someone who's just not feeling 100%, and they have to go to this terminal for a daily affirmation, if you will. If this is supposed to be such a utopic society, why does someone need to be reassured that they look great and they inspire joy feelings in everyone they meet? You shouldn't need that, but somehow you have people who do.
Right. And basically that's Chat GPT, if you think about it. Because think about it. We are actually, instead of going to a terminal, we have it on our cell phones. But we can actually ask ChatGPT, how can I cheer myself up? I'm feeling kind of down today. What advice do you have for me?
If ChatGPT returns with "You look great and inspire joy feelings in everyone you meet," then ChatGPT should stop watching Demolition Man.
Exactly. I'm not even going to listen to any kind of advice ChatGPT offers me, even though I don't listen to anything that it offers me anyways. But, I just think it's fun. I told my wife, I said, that's ChatGPT right there.
Yeah.
That's
Clearly,
plain and
someone has
simple.
subscribed to the cocktail plan part of ChatGPT.
Yeah. It had a little too much. But I do like how Simon winds up going over there and he basically kicks him out of the booth because I'm not done. Well, you're done now. And then the cops come up behind him. Okay, what do I do now? Well, now you need to read him his rights.
Mhm.
Simon Phoenix, put your hands up. That worked. Because what else do I do?
Right? That just goes to show in a utopic society, the police are probably the least effective people there, right? They haven't had to tell someone to, lay down on the ground with their hands over their heads in a long time, if ever at that point. So you are
Right,
dealing with a quote unquote police force that hasn't had to do police stuff probably for most of their service career, and now it's like, all right, well, now I need Chat GPT to actually tell me about this too. you know Please add "or else." Come on.
right. And have a stern voice.
Hmm.
Put your weapon down. Okay, now what else you got? I'm like, and then Simon winds up hacking into the whole entire system, and it's just this whole chaos. And then finally, after he kicks everyone's ass, they're like, "Okay, now what do we do?" Now they realize they have to get the Demolition Man back on track.
Yeah. Oh, the in that fight scene, there's the one where he tries to go one on one. The guy's got his fists up, and he goes to punch Simon Phoenix, and he's too afraid to punch him because clearly it's a no contact society, and you can see that too in the early scene in the police station where everyone's giving high fives, but they don't actually touch. They just kind of the hand comes up, and exactly they
Like
wax
wax
on,
on,
wax
wax
off with
off.
each other. Exactly. So you have a non contact society. You have something that's where violence is so not part of the equation. Even a high five, it's percussive. High five someone too hard and they'll feel it. So clearly, anything that is bad for you is deemed illegal. So full contact must be deemed illegal. So for a cop to actually do their job against someone like Simon Phoenix, they have to do the illegal
They
thing.
have to they have to break the law themselves in order to do the law that they need to do.
Yeah, but it tells you so much about the ineffectiveness of the general police force just in that one scene, but also goes to show how it has basically taken any sharpness out of the bite of anyone in 2032.
Right. And you know what though? I made jokes like back when COVID happened. I said, pretty soon we're going to be having to do this to high five each other
Yep.
or say hi, because that's basically what it was like. It's like, what's up? What's up? What you up to?
All through
But
Zoom screens, yes.
right, exactly. So I figured that was like a beta version of what they had to go through in a sense.
Yeah, but it also goes to show because Simon Phoenix has not changed. He's just
No.
become more ruthless and more dangerous. So, in a world that is exactly as the 2032 version of this world is, he should be able to take it over within about 4 or 5 days, the entire city. And run a crime syndicate. He is now the most dangerous person in the world.
Exactly, and I would love to see more buildings destroyed or something by Simon, but instead, he just lives underground, going after this one guy that they set up, which we'll get into in a few minutes.
Hmm.
But I would love to see more of a danger aspect to it as well, to make people feel like they're actually afraid of him,
Yeah.
like civilians. Even though he throws a civilian to go get a gun out
Oh, at the museum scene,
at the
yes.
museum, but I want more. Like I I'm like, I just want innocent people to die. I don't want that to happen. But I just want to feel like, as an audience, to have civilian life be that much more afraid of him than have the the underground biodome.
Yeah. But I mean,
Mad
this
Max.
is also where we get this little bit of the subliminal programming that happens while they're in the cryo prison. So you have that, you hear that the voice of Raymond Cocteau as he's hacking into the computer system is, don't you have someone to kill, Mr. Edgar Friendly? So Simon Phoenix is out because Cocteau needs to get rid of Edgar Friendly. So he's reprogrammed him subliminally. He's basically awoken a sleeping giant that he will not be able to take care of afterwards. But the thing here is that because of that subliminal programming, that's probably why we don't see so much of the, or at least more of the taking over the city crime syndicate kind of destruction that you would expect out of a Simon Phoenix.
That's
He
true.
knows he needs a gun because he has a mission to do. We don't know what's going to happen after that mission. Had he killed Edgar Friendly, then you could wonder what a Simon Phoenix let loose in the city would be like. But because he's subliminally focused on that mission, he's got to stick to the plan.
Okay, that actually makes more sense then, because yeah, he has to have a mission in order for, and it's actually to assassinate Edgar Friendly, and he doesn't even. So basically, that's his one mission. His mission is to get a gun, kill him, and then mission's over. Then he goes back into the cryo lab, probably.
Yeah, that's the
Or
prime directive right there.
or they wind up killing him afterwards and make themselves look like the hero.
Yeah.
One or the other. Either way it goes, they still look like the hero while the cops are still trying to figure out what to do with Simon. Like,
Yeah, they ain't doing nothing with Simon. Simon's in charge. They just don't know it
exactly.
yet.
But then I like how you finally have John Spartan out of the cryo lab, and then you have Huxley, who's trying to break everything down to him and stuff. And I just love the fact of, she goes, "Well, welcome back to Earth, John Spartan. Everything's changed since the last time you've been here." And then there's that banter between the police officers and stuff like that. And there's also the other thing too, where she mentions the fact that his wife died. That sucked.
Yep.
It kind of reminds me of RoboCop, where everything that Murphy knew is now gone, just as John Spartan, everything that John Spartan knew is gone. And he goes, "Well, what about my daughter?" Well, I don't. And then all of a sudden, the captain interrupts them. He goes, "We're not here to talk about your family. So F your family. We're
Yeah.
here to take down Simon Phoenix." Because, well, it's your fault that you let him out of his ice box. And now you want me to go on ahead and try to help you when you're the one who froze me? So once again, throwing blame over something he did, while also there's more things to worry about than that, because Simon's now out on the loose.
Yeah. This is that John Spartan fish out of water moment, right? Where he's just discovering how much the world has changed, even going to the washroom, the three seashells. Have you figured out how the three seashells work?
No.
Do you know how the three seashells work?
And I love that. I love the whole entire thing. It was like, he doesn't know how the
He doesn't know how the three seashells work. I have a theory as to how the three seashells work.
I do too. I want to hear your theory though.
Okay, so you have three controls here. Okay, so the first one, of course, has to be the flushing mechanism. So this is just a touch to flush kind of thing, but it's not fully touch, right? This is one of those, just hover your hand over, because remember, we're in a non-contact society, right? Everything is pleasant, everything is awesome. So the first one, you just flush. The second one is the bidet controls. Okay, because obviously they're not using toilet paper, but you have to flush first before you bidet. Because if you bidet before you flush, well, then you're flushing with dirty water, and that's just gross. Of course, the how you hold your hand over the shell dictates not just temperature, but also strength of flow, right? And then the third one, it's an air dryer. Same theory, you just hold your hand over it, dealing with temperature and strength of airflow to dry.
Okay. That's actually an interesting theory, because I was thinking, well, one seashell is the shit in, and then you put the other one on top of it. And then after that, you use the other one to air dry. Is basically what I was thinking. So
I mean, at least you're not using it to scrape out what's there, right? Because
yeah,
that's
that's the other thing. Like I would actually use that actually makes more sense though to use the bidet than it is to actually use the seashells to do it. So yeah, you would actually have to shit in it, then use the bidet, and then go on ahead and just basically use the other seashell to just go on ahead and air dry.
yeah. Flush, bidet, air dry. There's your 3 seashells.
There you go, guys. We finally broke it down. We finally figured it right. But
Or just violate the Verbal Moralities Act and get enough toilet paper to take care of business.
exactly, and then flood the whole entire pipes at the new future that you just
Sucks to be 2032.
yep. But I do like the banter between everyone inside the police station. He goes, "What the heck is this?" He goes, "Oh, that's just how people used to talk back then. They insult each other."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, with the scene with Zach Lamb, played by Bill Cobbs.
Right.
The fact that you had Zach Lamb as well in 1996, so you do get that callback. It's like the one cop that's still there 36 years later.
Right. And then I like how too, like he's like, hold on. And then he hears when he goes, well, what the fuck is that? And the next thing you know, it keeps on giving him citations over and over again of him breaking the law. He goes, what the hell is this? Oh, you can't cuss or anything. And let's see, at Game Freakness says, I love that movie. I had it on VHS as a kid. I did too. I had it on VHS. Now I proudly own it on 4K as well. So
Yeah, this is a multi-format movie. It's that good.
yes, I had to buy it for the $20. But, I just love the chemistry with all these police officers. I actually do feel like I'm actually part of this crew, even though that we also feel like John Spartan, where they're actually fish out of water as well. Well, we actually feel like we're part of that. And I love this journey that we go on with him, especially whenever they get in the car and it's now driverless cars, just as we also have driverless cars
Mm-hmm.
now. All except one thing that doesn't tell you your weight or anything like that, but it does tell you that that you can actually drive driverless. And basically, if you think about it, that's Sirius XM with the show tunes that they have.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh my God. One of these days, Sirius XM, and I don't know if they've ever done this, but if Sirius XM is listening, here's what you got to do. Just whenever the anniversary of this movie comes on, you need to create a special station that's just commercial jingles. And I guarantee you, people are going to listen, especially if every now and then you throw on hot dogs, Armor hot
hot
dogs.
dogs. And my wife is rolling her eyes because she cannot stand that scene. She goes, "This is so cringe." I was like, "Well, it's supposed to be because we're actually supposed to feel the same emotion as John Spartan, so it actually matches with the personality of John Spartan." But
Yeah.
yes, it is cringy. And then Game Freakness also says, "I remember my dad didn't know if the code was teddy bear or titty man." Damn, I'm old.
Why does this feel like what's the safe word? What's the safe word?
Teddy man. No, never mind. That's not the code.
That's the code for something way different.
Right. That's for 50 Shades. But I do like this whole entire deal with this thing with the satellite, and also too, John Spartan wants to drive in the future. He's never driven in the future, so he
Yeah.
thinks it's just like driving a bicycle, right? Driving a bicycle. It's not. And then now we actually not only that, but he tells them, "Hey, look, he's after a gun. That's what Simon Phoenix is after."
Yeah. And that's the interesting thing too, is that John Spartan is clearly a cop that's always run on instinct, his gut instinct. So he's going to be, he's going to be in the driver's seat. He's got an idea of what Simon Phoenix is going to do. He's going to do what he thinks needs to be done. So of course his first instinct is to go into the driver's seat and be the one to go to where they need to go, even though it's 2032. You don't know where anything is anymore, John Spartan. So probably just get in the back and let Ladino drive, which eventually he does. But
Right.
biometric settings in a car has to go in the list with the Back to the Future self-tying sneakers and so many, and the hoverboards. So many futuristic devices that we should have had by now, according to movie logic.
Right, and it makes perfectly sense for this dystopia. I mean, it really does. And
Hmm.
then, but then we after that happens, anticipating that Phoenix will attempt to secure firearms, Spartan leads Huxley to a museum and finds Phoenix looting an exhibit of weapons. To Spartan's surprise, Phoenix is even deadlier than before, exhibiting expert level proficiency and extra extensive range of skills, including martial arts and computer hacking. Phoenix escapes and holds Kato at gunpoint, but is unable to kill him as Kato had implanted a command in the rehabilitation program to prevent him from doing so. Kato instead orders Phoenix to kill Edgar Friendly, the leader of the resistance group called the Scraps, who refused to conform to Saito's moral ideals and who live in the underground of the ruins of Los Angeles. So I like how where Simon basically asked him, "So, as this one guy, so how much do you weigh?" Weigh about 120, you know? And he's also trying to kick the glass too before that. But he winds up tossing the guy into the exhibit and he winds up getting a gun.
Yeah. And
Then,
not
yeah,
just any gun, but there's a series of guns that we get. And of course, this is also the only time that we see with him with a futuristic gun, with that pulse rifle or whatever it is that he was able to use, but had to wait 2.5 minutes for it to charge up. I'm kind of glad that they didn't have too much in the way of futuristic technology in the in the armory, because if 2032 is supposed to be as peaceful, peace loving, and pacifist as they make it out to be, then there'd be no need for laser rifles and the like. So it makes sense that it's really just a museum item, and everyone else is just using the stun glow rods that they have.
I agree. I think that if you're going to have this dystopia future and you're not supposed to have guns or anything like that, you need at least one futuristic gun in this. So it might as well be a gun that you have to charge up, which
Hmm.
probably didn't even clear the police station or anything like that because it's like, okay, so I have 20 minutes before I can actually use this thing before it
Yeah.
charges up. So no, this is not going to be good for us. So let's just go ahead and do away with it.
Yeah, but to the same token as well, you know, if there was such a giant earthquake in 2010 that basically decimated Los Angeles and turned it into San Angeles, you have to think that the years shortly after that earthquake in trying to restore, maintain, and cultivate order, now you're talking like a 22-year stretch. So you have to think that some of those early years are going to be little bit more violent and a little bit harsher than the current future. So it makes sense that a laser gun exists, but it also makes sense that now it's just a museum item.
Right. And I also like that idea of like you have normalized weapons mixed in with this one gun. And it
Hmm.
only allows us to see how the future has changed as far as the weaponry goes. So I
Yeah.
do like how they play around with that. It's not OP or anything. They just use it for one time for this one thing, and that's it. So I like that. And then I just want to mention this. Game Freakness says they must have a huge Taco Bell deal for the movie. Yeah, they did. We talked about that at the very beginning, where I remember as a child that they actually had a Taco Bell deal. And so they incorporated the couple of scenes from the movie into the Taco Bell commercial and stuff like that. But we'll get into the whole entire Taco Bell thing in a minute because I do want to talk about that on how fascinating I think that is that there's only one restaurant that managed to actually outsell every single fast food restaurant and it happened to be Taco Bell.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a fascinating stretch of time in the Demolition Man timeline of things that I would love for them to somehow go back and explore through novels. Like, I'd love to know about the fast food wars. I'd love to know about the efforts it took to create this utopic society. And again, you have to narrow it down to that 22-year stretch of time from the big one of 2010 to 2032. What happened during that time? What did it take? What did the police force have to evolve to become in order to be able to get to this point. And the story of Raymond Cocteau, like how was it that he was able to influence an entire nation in order to become this, you know, Timu version of The Good Place?
So my question is this: would you say that maybe Saito is probably Steve Zuckerberg, like socialism?
No, I don't think so. I don't think it has anything to do with technology. You know, if you take a look at some of more spiritual leaders, actually,
Mm,
you
that
know, like
actually makes sense.
yeah, this is more of the Gandhi types, right? Or if you watch a move or documentary, I think it's like Wild Wild West on Netflix, and even though that one got a little cultish and went the probably the opposite way, you have to think that this is someone who became a spiritual leader, and if it wasn't, you know, he clearly didn't make a cult, but he made a society that people needed. And if the 2010 earthquake is supposed to have been so insanely destructive and life shattering, people in the aftermath of that are probably looking for someone to lead them towards a better future. So you have
That
a
makes
witness
sense.
space for someone like a Raymond Cocteau to be able to come in and basically be the Pied Piper for the people who are looking to kind of get back on their feet.
That actually makes sense because when something tragic happens, we always want to lean on something to actually get us through something. So
Mhm.
it just happens to
Absolutely,
be the
yeah.
Saito. So therefore, the Saito guy is basically this religionist kind of guy that is be all end all person that can manipulate people in the way they think. And
Yeah.
if they don't think the same way, he can just basically just kill you, which is what he's trying to do right now with this
Yeah.
other underground thing that's happening. But you know, then you have Artho, which is the guy from Beetlejuice, the same actor. I just happen to call him Artho, but he actually represents that Zen as well because he plays off of this follower type to Saito.
Yeah.
So
It's
he does a very good job at that too.
yeah. It's one of those things where, you know, the early days, it was probably very much a, you know, there to help, there to lead, there to be, you know, for the people, right? And then, of course, you know, when the time came to redevelop some kind of leadership structure or government structure, of course, if Dr. Cocteau is so well known for being probably on the ground and hands-on and helping people, then yeah. And yeah, Associate Bob, yeah, it's, you know, it's kind of a fun character because he's such a bootlick, but it's a fun dynamic between the two of them.
Right. And then he tells Simon that, hey, look, you're supposed to kill Edgar. What are you doing? And he goes, well, I'm going to kill you. Then all of a sudden it turns into RoboCop once again because
Yep.
now there's rules there that you cannot kill someone that you're trying to that appointed you a mission. So now Simon has no choice but to bow down to him for now and do what he's told to do. So he goes into the underground trying to look for him, even though John Spartan and them don't know about that. But he goes up to Saito and he tells him, "Oh, thank you so much. You saved my life. Just for that, we're gonna go to Taco Bell." And he goes, "Wait, so what makes this guy so great that he has to go in and treat me to Taco Bell?" And when he, if this was us in the future in 1996 with John Smart, we're thinking of drive-through window. We're thinking of the dollar menu. We're thinking, why is he this guy who is supposed to be the Zen trying to treat me to a cheap ass meal when he supposedly I saved his life, but did I really save his life? And why does he think that I owe him something when I don't owe him something?
Yeah. I'll admit that this is one of those. There are some times when you get a movie that has like some subtle, repetitive lines. I don't know how many times I've been like, "I'd like to take you to Taco Bell." You know, it's just the way he says it. It's like he says Taco Bell with such reverence, and you know, obviously, you know, John Spartan still being of 1996 mentality. It's like, yeah, you're looking at like, you know, chalupas and, you know, cheap ass burritos and is it meat? You know, it's, but the fact that it has become like the sole source of fine cuisine in 2032. And then when you get to the Taco Bell itself and you see these, haute cuisine kind of portions, and it's just like, oh, I thought Taco Bell was small beforehand. And you get this, it's such a fun spoof on everything. I love the fact that they use Taco Bell as more a, you know, what's the word I'm looking for here? An analogy of the fast food wars that we get today, right? Obviously, the biggest one being McDonald's and Burger King, going head to head and trying to get people to actually sell get the most burger sales and whatnot. And yet here comes Taco Bell as the last people standing. It's brilliant. But the funny thing is, it's really weird when you watch the international version and you get the Pizza Hut replacement
Right.
with Taco Bell.
Which is totally different. And at that time, if you think about it, we're getting to Game Freakness in a second. But you know what, though? At that time, though, Pizza Hut was just a dine-in restaurant.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It was more fancier than Taco Bell. So I wouldn't even put that as a drive-through place, like a fast food restaurant in a sense, even though there is a drive-through window. It's more of your dine-in restaurant at that time versus a takeout.
Yeah. I miss eating Pizza Hut like so much. Like I wish there was more of them around. There just aren't anymore.
No, there's actually one here where I live at. And I love it. I love the fact that you can go in and sit down and look at the buffet and stuff. And I feel like I'm actually 10 years old again. It
Pizza
makes
Hut
me
buffet was the bomb.
Yes. But let's see. Game Freakness says they also fine for freedom of speech. So there goes America. LOL. Yep, there it goes. But and then after that happens, after they go to Taco Bell, you get the baby grand piano. You also find out that Arnold Schwarzenegger has a museum as well for himself, and there's also that
The presidential museum at that.
Yeah. And I thought that was interesting since Schwarzenegger was also governor of California, and then that was way before he even ran for governor of California. And I like how it's kind of meta now thinking about it. And then next thing you know, Lena Huxley is actually hot for John Spartan because of the fact he took down all those underground Mad Max underground villains, supposedly. Because that's what I want to call them. They're like the Thunderdome, if you think about it.
Yeah, especially when you take a look at their outfits and you realize that those are like tire treads that they're using as shoulder pads.
Right. So it reminds me of the Mad Max Thunderdome for some reason. I mean, it just has that feel to it with this apocalyptic thing mixed in with this dystopia universe that we are creating. It's like darkness into lightness, even though this city is dark. But just because there's a lot of lights and a lot of flashy things, it does not mean that it's actually friendly. It's actually dark.
Yeah.
But then he wants to have sex with Lena, and you find out that they can't even have sex. They have to have it through VR. And he goes, "Can we just do it the old-fashioned way?" Old-fashioned way.
With the fluid transfers, yes, described so romantically,
right?
But the funny thing too is that, again, this falls under the non-contact thing. Obviously, technology has made it very sterile, for lack of a better term. The fact that you actually have to go and get a license in order to be able to have kids and all that, and it's probably done in a very non-sexual kind of way. Like, you're taking the 1996 sensibilities and putting them into this society where contact is just not. And it's a funny scene. Not great if you got seizures, and because there's a lot of flashing lights during that scene. But it's also, again, a funny scene for Sandra Bullock as well. Her comedic timing in this movie is
perfect.
Yeah, it's unheralded. Like it's one of those things where
let's go lick some ass.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I mean, you take a look at let's going back to the museum scene for a second, where Spartan and Phoenix are fighting. There's a lot of bad cheesy one-liners in that scene. The whole swinging around the television, like, "You're on TV." It's like, really? Did you need to say that? Like that's peak 80s bad one-liners there. But I'm glad it's kind of confined to that moment. It's the only cheesy part I would say in this film. Sandra Bullock's one-liners in this, because they're delivered with such an honest naivete about them, and just her expression as she's saying these things, it's
There's
like,
such an innocence to it.
yeah, exactly. You sit there going, "Oh, you so just don't know," but it's cute, so it's all good.
She kind of reminds me of the rabbit from Zootopia, where everything is all fine and everything, and then you realize it's not fine. That's what she reminds me of.
Oh my god, you just compared her to Zootopia.
It's a perfect analogy, at least in my mind. But
Absolutely, you're not wrong. I just find it
Right.
fascinating.
Demolition Man, the Zootopia of today.
Oh
But
god.
but then we talked about the VR thing. I was thinking to myself, what if there's lagging? What happens if she blames him for coming too early, and there's like a lag? So does their VR bodies just stay there the whole time, or what?
That's the other thing too. It's technology. Don't get technology
I'm
wet,
sorry, baby. It wasn't me. There was a lag.
right?
Imagine because we always outrage whenever there's lag in our video games, right? It's like it's not me. It was lagging.
I'm sorry, baby. I'm just buffering. Sorry, terribly sorry.
Bad connection. I should have upgraded to the other pro plan instead of this basic plan. That's all I can afford is 3Gs. I'm sorry.
Oh. I'm sorry. This has been interrupted by an ad. Just hold on for a second.
AT&T. Brought to you by AT&T. But
Oh god. We now interrupt this lovemaking session for a quick word from the Jolly Green Giant.
right.
Good things from the valley.
And we're right back to the action. Because what happened? I'm sorry, I didn't pay my premium, so now we actually have to have ads before we get it on. But then let's see here. Game Freakness says also the Simon Sata thing made no sense to me. Simon Says, but yeah. Oh
Yeah.
yes. Also the Simon
There's
Says thing.
only minor script annoyances with some of the one-liners in this movie, but I mean, you're looking for action dialogue. You're looking for something that would sound natural coming out of the mouth of Sylvester Stallone and Wesley Snipes, and sometimes it's going to lean into like the corny one-liners. I still think Sandra Bullock gets the best lines in this film.
I do too. I think so too. She is the MVP of this movie.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
When it comes, I know you do VMVP, but I'm actually going to give her the MVP award for this because she's just great. But I think the fact of it is they're trying to play off the narrative of, oh, his name is Simon, so let's go ahead and put in Simon Says. I think it would be funny. It's kind of like having Michael Bay write your script for you because he thinks he's the most funniest person at the barbecue when he's not. But anyways. But yeah, and then after that, we have anticipating that Phoenix will attempt to secure firearms. Luckily, okay, so we already talked about that.
Yeah.
So then Spartan and Huxley witnessed the exchange on security cameras and reviewed that Saito prison records. They discovered that Phoenix's rehabilitation program was tailored by Saito to make him even more dangerous than he was in 1996, including martial arts, computer hacking. We talked about that. Then we also talked about the fact that he's targeting persuades Saitos to release additional Cyro prisoners for his gang and leads them into an underground pursuit friendly, having previously encountered the scraps during a food raid at a restaurant. Spartan and Huxley venture underground and stay friendly from an assassination attempt by Phoenix. Phoenix taunts Spartan with the revelation that he had framed Spartan for the deaths in 1996 who were already dead before the building exploded. Phoenix escapes to the Cyro prison and Spartan pursues him with weapons provided by the scraps.
Mhm.
So I like how we actually have the underground layer now. It kind of reminds me of Super Mario Brothers the movie a little bit, but I like how there's a rat burger and he's like, oh, because Spartan, yeah, did you ever see any cows around here? He goes, what is this? And she goes, it's a rat burger.
I mean, at least they're still making beer, so that's good.
Right. Well, is it though? It could be piss.
So Bud.
Yeah.
It's
it could be
Budweiser
the
then.
same. It could be
Basically
the
what you
same
boiled it down
Mexican.
to.
Well, it could be the same Mexican beer that we had from Desperado.
Fair, fair. I just love the fact, and when they get to, they spot the car, that gorgeous car, right? And then Edgar pops up with all of his little minions there, and they're holding the guns on everyone. If you look very closely, not right beside, but like around Edgar Friendly in that scene is a very young Jack Black.
I didn't even notice Jack, to be honest
He's
with
in
you.
there. You only really see him from the side angle where Friendly's kind of holding the gun on Spartan, and they're kind of have this face off. But yeah, you have a very young Jack Black in that scene. He's got no lines, but he's there.
Oh wow, I'm gonna have to look very closely at that scene because I never noticed that before.
See, you have another reason now to go watch Demolition Man in 4K.
Right, maybe in 4K I'll actually know, but but
but
yeah, I didn't even notice.
Yeah, but there's the other thing too, is that this whole scene, and we saw it earlier, of course, with the raid on the Taco Bell, and he's fighting them and all that, and he realizes they're just trying to steal food, and Spartan's like, well, you're just hungry, right? So this is where we get to see the humanity of John Spartan. This isn't just, guns ablazing, gung ho, laser focused just on Simon Phoenix. He understands that when people are hungry and people are starving, then they're going to do what they need in order to be able to eat. So he doesn't hate the scraps. He doesn't really hate anybody. He's still a cop. He's still trying to serve the people. So the fact that we have him kind of siding with Edgar Friendly makes sense. Also, it's one of those, the enemy of my enemy is my friend, or at least
Right,
not my enemy.
exactly. I can see that, and he has no reason or no beef with this man. He's just trying to protect them from getting killed, all because of the fact that he wants to live underground and he's trying to make his people survive by having food. And when you don't have food, you're going to do any means necessary, like you said, to survive. And there's
Yeah.
nothing funny or dangerous about someone trying to survive to actually help their families, especially when
Yeah.
you're living underground, because who knows, maybe because of the fact that this utopia future took away their homes, so now they're forced to live underground as well. So that's also another possibility. And this man happens to be their leader to help them through this, just as Saito is the man upstairs to be able to help other people because of the destruction of this earthquake that happened in 2010.
Exactly. Also, when you get to this scene, right, minus the Dennis Leary straight from his stand-up routine rant that he goes on, which is kind of the reason why he got the role in the first place. It's after that rant, right? And you enjoy it because we all remember the asshole song, right? It was a great song with that rant in it. But then you get to see the actual Dennis Leary acting. That whole like, I'm not a leader kind of scene. It's a reminder that Dennis Leary is actually a really, really good actor. The Ref is one of those Christmas
Yes.
movies that has a lot more heart than you would expect out of him. Obviously, there was the Rescue Me TV series that he was a part of, being in the Amazing Spider-Man. He is a really good actor, and when given those moments, he really brings it with the dramatic acting.
He really does. He knows how to actually do dramatic roles. Not only that, but there was also this other romantic comedy or that he was in the 90s as well, too, where they're from Boston. Him and his girlfriend are trying to escape because I think either the mob is after them or they're
Wasn't that Two If by Sea?
Yep, Two If I See. That was also one of my other favorite ones. But the riff, no one talks about the riff, dude.
I love the Ref.
Me too. I want to review that movie
Oh.
during Christmas time with you because it's underrated. Everybody talks about the Santa Claus. They talk about everything else. You're the only one that I know of that mentioned that movie. So I'm happy that you mentioned that.
Oh, Christmas time, we will talk about the Ref. I will be here with sleigh bells on.
Yes, I want to see that. But yeah, you're absolutely right. There's a reason why Dennis Leary is in this movie. He's great with his comedic timing. Not only is he great with his comedic timing, but he's also great at being able to ramble off his lines and also make us care about him at the same time and realize, oh, this is not a leader. This is someone that's just trying to provide for other people. Even though they may look to him as a leader, he doesn't see himself as a leader.
Exactly. He's desperate. Everyone underground is desperate.
Exactly. They're just desperate enough to survive, and that's all they want to do is try and survive this thing. But yeah, freaky gamer, game freakness. Do me a favor, email me at movielovesunite@gmail.com and we'll try and set something up so that way you can come on the show. I'll be glad to have you. But but yeah, I just think that he actually embodies this guy that is just trying to do good for his people. And even though his people also sees him as a leader. But
And that's the other thing too, is that just the very demeanor from John Spartan towards Edgar Friendly, right? It allows like Benjamin Bratt's character to kind of relax a little bit. It allows Lillian Huxley to relax a little bit, right? Because if Spartan's not concerned, they shouldn't be.
exactly. There's no danger. There's nothing to worry about. Then we also find out too that Simon is actually doing martial arts. He's computer hacking, has knowledge, and meanwhile, you have Spartan who ends up knitting something for Huxley. And he's like, "Wait, I ended up knitting this, and this guy gets to be martial artist and gets to go around hacking and stuff." He got the shit into the stick on that.
Spartan gets to knit. He gets to make sweaters and scarves. But to the same token as well, that would be something that would probably be in the cocktail plan version of like the rehabilitation program, right? It's one of those things where what's a great, calm, passive kind of thing that you could actually teach someone and then they would be useful in society. Knitting's good and passive. That would do.
Right. To calm him down, to make him not want to kill anybody.
Yeah.
And I like like when you're seeing him knit, right? He doesn't know how he's knitting, but he's just knitting as he's watching this thing go down where you actually see Saito and Phoenix, and he's just knitting and he's acting like he's done this forever.
And he has watching the security camera footage, and it's very much muscle memory at that point. It's like any musician who has played a song 100 of times and they don't have to look at their guitar anymore. The fingers know where to go. Like he knows what he's doing subconsciously.
Exactly. Because it feels like he's natural to him. It actually feels like that he's done this all his life, even though he hasn't done it. Just as Phoenix has been hacking and he doesn't know how he's hacking, but he knows how to do it because he's flexing that muscle in his brain that's been implanted there. So yeah. But then you have where Phoenix meets up with Saito in the house. He goes, "Okay, so say illuminate." He goes, "Lights on." No. Use illuminate. Okay. Illuminate on, illuminate off. But
he's so giddy in that scene too. Like he's just enjoying like sitting in that chair and just having the upper hand on everybody in everything. Illuminate.
I just love that because he knows he can hack into stuff. So because he's a hacker, he just hacks into anything because he knows he can do it now at this point. So why not mess with Alexa's lights?
Oh, absolutely.
That's what I call it. But yeah, I definitely like this whole entire back and forth thing. And then you also have Saito winds up releasing the additional Sayo prisoners for the gang and leads them underground, like we said. And then we have Huxley ventures underground and saves Friendly from an assassination attempt. Phoenix taunts Spartan. So now we're unable to harm Saito. Phoenix has gang members kill him instead, which is smart. So let's go ahead, use the stuff against him, get what I want, and get these gang members to kill him. So that way I don't have to touch him.
This reminds me of a scene for one of my one of those movies that kind of low key is on my I'll watch it anytime list. Sneakers. There's this whole scene. Oh, it's such a good movie. But it's one of those kind of under the radar ones. It's not gonna jump off your DVD shelf right at you. Like I don't think anyone goes down and says, I really need to see Sneakers this week. But if it's on, you're like, hey, I don't mind watching Sneakers. But there's this scene where Ben Kingsley is, has people kind of locked in a room kind of things. I can't kill my friend. kill my friend. And it's just like that's basically the scene.
It really is. It's like, I'm not gonna kill you, but it also kind of reminds me of Scarface a little bit. It goes, I'm not gonna kill you. I'm not gonna kill you, Frank. He's gonna kill you. And, and then he winds up killing him. But I like the Ben Kingsley one because it makes me laugh. And also the delivery of the line of, I'm not gonna kill my friend. I'm gonna get him to do it. So
Yeah.
I like that a lot better than Scarface. But
It's also not a late 80s, early 90s action film if Jesse Ventura isn't in it.
true. But then also too, now where basically, if you think about it, Phoenix is like, you know what? I have Saito's Zen with me now, which is Otho. And I'm gonna go on ahead and I'm gonna get him to use this technology. And guess what? Now we're gonna go on ahead and we're gonna take down this whole entire city. Now you actually see the chaos. Now that I'm actually now remembering certain things too, I'm like, it actually makes sense for that to be the climax of it. Of like, okay, I got the one guy that was in my way from doing harm to this whole entire city. Now I can actually do harm to that city, and no one's going to stop me other than John Spartan. So I wouldn't doubt if it was going to replay again, where something's going to happen to John Spartan again, and he has to be frozen, and Phoenix is now the judge, jury, and executioner.
Yeah. So gone is the actual source of the voice in his head.
Mhm.
Dr. Cocteau is now a char baby, roasting gently by the open fire. And you have to think that the death of Cocteau ends the subliminal voice in the head to basically deal with Edgar Friendly. That doesn't mean he's not still going to want to deal with Edgar Friendly. That's probably still kind of programmed within him and will probably still stay there until he actually does deal with them. But there's nothing stopping him from actually doing it his way at this point. So yeah, of course he's gonna bust his buddies out of cryo prison. Of course he's going to find the worst of the worst, because that is what the Joker would do. And if he's basically this world's Joker, then absolutely he'd be the kind of person to bust out like the likes of like a Clayface and the Riddler and the Penguin and all those kind of characters from Arkham Asylum. So this is basically that kind of scene right there.
I can see that. That's actually makes sense though, with him breaking out of breaking them out of like Arkham and stuff. So that does make sense. But I also like how I know that we got this one part where he thought where John Spartan was gonna meet up with Saito and talk to him, and he winds up shooting his gun in that area and just kills all the TVs. And then you see the Zing character, which we know well. What was the character's name you said? I forget.
Oh, Associate Bob?
Yeah, we actually see him faint. So it makes me laugh on that part. But so to know that he's going to be the one to help Phoenix, I just think that's hilarious. He'll just attach himself to anybody and he doesn't care who he attaches himself onto, as long as he's saving his own ass.
Yeah, Associate Bob's an interesting character because in a society that's so utopic, right, where everyone has their place and everyone has a job and everyone is supposed to feel good. And we saw it earlier with the guy doing the daily affirmations at the computer terminal, and you have Lenina Huxley who's unhappy with the lack of adventure, and then you have Associate Bob who doesn't really feel like anything unless he's actually serving somebody. So the Cocteau plan, for lack of a better term, this utopic society where everyone has their place and everyone's happy and everyone's taken care of, well, it's just not. If you have people living underground who are starving and they are raiding Taco Bells for food, if you have people who live above ground but don't feel fulfilled and don't feel like a part of the actual societal plan, you know it's a facade, is basically what this utopic society is like. And there's this underlying sadness, not an anger, not a destructive need to break free from the confines of not being able to give a high five properly. There's just an underlying sadness, and Simon Phoenix then becomes almost the unleasher of more of that. But with Associate Bob, we're talking about someone who probably has absolute zero self-esteem and zero self-worth unless he is someone's lackey.
Exactly. Who can't think for himself or anything like that. He finds himself weak, but yet if he's around someone like Saito, he feels powerful, just as powerful as he does.
Mm-hmm.
Then we actually have the climax of the film now. So Spartan incapacitates Huxley for her safety and fights Phoenix, breaking a vial of cryogenic chemical that rapidly freezes Phoenix's body solid. Spartan kicks his head off, shattering it, and escapes as the uncontrolled quick freezing effect triggered an explosion that destroys the Cyro prison. The police fear that the loss of Saito in the Cairo prison will end society as they know it. But Spartan suggests that they and the scraps cooperate to combine the best aspects of order and personal freedom. He kisses Huxley and they leave together.
Yeah. So this is the interesting thing too. And this just goes to show the fragility of the society. Because Cocteau's dead. Simon Phoenix has stopped, so that's good. But they're leaderless. Associate Bob isn't going to take control. Like, that's not going to happen.
No.
And you see the captain who's really prior to this scene, he was rough and calling John Spartan a barbarian and really kind of snooty about the whole thing. You can't really say he's angry or mad. He's just snooty because that's what he would be. But the minute he realizes that Cocteau's gone, which means their government is basically gone, their leadership is gone, it's almost like St. Angeles is kind of like a cult, right? What do you do? The very figurehead that you all put so high up on this pedestal of leading the way into an idyllic future is gone, and they're lost. They don't know.
They're just as lost as they're just as lost as his lackey, because now it's like, what do? We can't think for ourselves. So now we have to figure out who do we latch onto.
Yeah.
And
which also makes you wonder exactly how lost were the people after the earthquake. It really does pose a lot of really interesting questions as to what society would be like if everything they knew, like if everything kind of broke down. Did society break down? They kind of alluded to it, when they were talking about Taco Bell, when Cocteau was explaining what happened after the earthquake, they alluded to society was in a rough spot. Even the basement scene at the museum that shows this, basically destroyed little street corner with broken cars and stores with the gates up in front of it. It shows what probably happened after the 2010 earthquake. That's a fascinating era of this movie that I think could be explored through literature, through novels, through expanding the universe. But I say that knowing that I also don't want a Demolition 2 or Demolition Man 2. I really don't.
Even though they are planning on it. They are planning on a Demolition Man 2.
I don't want one though.
And having Wesley Snipes come back. I'm like, how the hell do you get Wesley Snipes come back from that?
Exactly. There are some movies that don't need a sequel. They just don't.
This is perfect as a one-off, and that's it. This was a movie that knew what its identity, knew what it was, knew its target audience, and made money back then. This movie is not going to do well. We've seen movies that gets remade over 40 years, and it bombs. This movie is going to bomb, and it's going to fail. Because look how old Stallone is now. Look how old Wesley Snipes is now. They're not in their prime like they used to. Is it going to be AI? Is it going to be the Benjamin Button effect where you have de-aging or what? But I'd rather it just be this one-off and be done with it, because that's what it is.
This perfect little package of a movie that it wasn't part of a franchise. It wasn't part of some bigger world.
No.
It's this nice little pocket of its own universe. And to make a sequel, you then have to sit there and say, okay, well, are we focusing on John Spartan? Are we focusing on Simon Phoenix? Obviously not. Are we focusing on Lena Huxley? I mean, Sandra Bullock could probably still pull it off. But
Stallone is good at what he's doing right now. Tulsa King.
Where do you go with this, right? Like the idea of the Demolition Man is done. Simon Phoenix is dead. Like Terminator 2 style's dead, and he's not a liquid metal man, so he ain't coming back. This is one of those things where you have something wrapped up so nicely. Don't come back to it for a payday. Don't come back to it to milk the nostalgia cow dry. Let it be. If you want to re-release it in theaters, great.
That's perfectly
If
fine.
Yeah, exactly. Or if you want to do a film that is set in the post 2010 earthquake world, and give me a Dr. Cocteau prequel, and I might actually be interested in that, but don't call it Demolition Man.
No.
You know, make it in a way that, the movie Soldier starring Kurt
Yeah.
Russell.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a spiritual sequel to the original Blade Runner film.
That's all you need. And all you can do is just do like plant like little Easter eggs or something like that that you made this film and just borrow the identity of what Demolition Man is, borrow the formula, but don't try and redo the formula that was once Demolition Man.
Yeah.
And
If you say the spell wrong, you're gonna mess it up.
right.
Sometimes let it be one and done.
Exactly. And I do like this ending. I do like how everything wraps up. I do like how Spartan is like, look, I'm gonna go ahead and take Simon out myself. I'm gonna leave Huxley alone because this man is way too dangerous. She's not capable of taking someone down like Phoenix. So I'm gonna go ahead and knock her out with the baton thing that I have. And then I do like how the frozen material is with Phoenix and how he's able to just take him down like that. So I definitely like the special effects for that still. So, with that, think I'm gonna give this at least a solid 10 because of how I just enjoy this.
Yeah. I mean, if we're sitting here in, 2026 saying this film is so good that you don't want anything to come after it and ruin it, that tells you everything you need to know. It's kind of like The Princess Bride, right?
Mhm.
Don't remake it. Don't do a follow up. Nothing. Nothing. Leave it be.
I agree. And Game Freakness is actually trying to give Hollywood some ideas. They cloned him and took the DNA when they implanted what he could do. It's a possibility,
It
but
is.
then you have to think of it like this: how do they de-age them? Do you use deepfake? Do you go ahead and make Stallone and Snipes sign an AI contract to where it's okay for them to use it for that one movie and make money off of it, even though they're not really in there?
Yeah, I'm the de-aging thing, it can be hit and miss. Like in small doses, it can be okay. But an overuse of it and just leaning on it, it's I'm not too sure, right? The cloning idea, I mean, sure, you could go down a cloning road. We'd be far enough into the future that could be a possibility. Does someone want to clone Simon Phoenix and bring him back? I don't know why they would. I have no idea. But it's one of those. I don't want another John Spartan being a Demolition Man kind of story.
No, I
But
don't either.
then it negates the idea of an entire Demolition Man too.
Right, and also too, what does the Dystopia future looks like? I mean, what does that look like after that? Or it could be a
Exactly.
prequel, but either way, as a deepfake and look. Yeah, exactly. Unless they're gonna try and do what they're doing with, for example, with Rambo, where they're trying to do a prequel movie for that and recast someone that looks like him, even though it's not, and then you're not gonna get the same flavor that you would get if it was Stallone. So, yeah, I just say just leave it be. Let it be this 34-year-old movie, a 40-year-old movie, and just enjoy it, stuff popcorn in your
Yeah.
face for an hour and 40 minutes and be done.
Yeah, I mean, the other idea, of course, is that you have the son or daughter of Spartan and Huxley, and they're a cop now. And maybe Lenina is the captain of the precinct, and John Spartan has retired and he's gone on to create a knitting emporium or whatever. And making sweaters for the scraps and whatnot. Sure, okay, why not, right? But then you have a criminal who remembers or has done their research, and looks at those times like Lenina Huxley looked at those times, and goes against the utopic society. So now it's up to the child of John and Lenina having to save the world from
Coming
violence
soon
and
to
mayhem.
see John and see John's daughter. Watch
Yeah.
her. Watch her as she runs. Watch her as she tries to kick Simon Phoenix's ass. Watch as there's explosions. But yeah, I just don't see it playing out.
Eat your popcorn out of your home knit sweater bucket.
Coming soon to a theater near you, summer 2030.
I mean, there's the other thing too. Do you wait till 2032 to put a movie out?
That would
like
actually
this?
be perfect. To be honest with you, it's the anniversary of Simon Phoenix.
Oh my god. Okay, if we're still podcasting in 2032 and they release Demolition Man 2, you know what we have to do?
Do an anniversary edition.
It's only 6 years away.
Right. It's crazy to think that, right?
Oh, I mean, I remember doing an episode on my podcast about movies of futures past, right? Where it was set in the future, but now where we are now, it's in the past, and we're not that far away from this film
we're not.
being there.
It's crazy, man. It's really crazy.
It's kind of like when you watch like the old Transformers the movie and you hear the voiceover, "It is the year 2005." I'm like, oh geez, I missed a few years there.
Yeah. Let's see. Game Freakness says, so here's an idea. He was cloned and he's back and they have to kill him again and destroy the DNA so they can clone him again. So it's Demolition Man.
Oh God. Okay, dude, I'm just going to tell you right now, Game Freakness, you got to go to the movie theaters. There's a movie that came out this weekend called Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. Go watch that film because they do deal with cloning in that film in a way that it's you could be cloned over and over and over. It's almost like you're pitching Altered Carbon to become the next Demolition Man.
Okay.
Just get re-sleeved. It's all good.
But yeah, guys.
Also, Altered Carbon is such a good series.
But I have a question. So now that we talked about this non-nostalgically now, even though we were like a 9 nostalgically, and I'm a 10 now, what are you?
I'm still a 9.5, and I say that mainly because there's still a couple of those lines from that fight in the museum where I'm just like, oh, you cheesed out a little bit, but it's not enough to knock it down lower than a 9.5. This is still my favorite Stallone film. It's maybe my favorite Sandra Bullock film. I don't know what's my favorite Wesley Snipes film because Blade exists, so
Yes.
there's that, and Dennis Leary, well, The Ref exists, so there's that. But there's a lot of actors where this is the peak of their filmography, at least in my books.
I agree.
9.5.
Okay, I'm sticking with my 10. So there you go. Game Freakness says, never mind, don't do the clone thing. They did it in the 6th day with Arnold Schwarzenegger. Yep, I forgot all about that movie too myself.
So did we, and so did so did Schwarzenegger.
And that was before the days of him becoming governor. So there you go.
Right. Also the end of days. Anyways, we forgot about that movie too.
Right. But anyways, guys, tell them about your podcast, Jason. I would love for them to be able to follow you and tell them about Keep Watch Past, whatever you need to tell them. This is your chance.
Okay, so I host 2 different podcasts. The first being It's Not That Bad, where we take a look at unfairly maligned movies with a less than 60% score on Rotten Tomatoes, and we try to find good things to say about it. On Mondays, we also release Keep Watch Pass, which is basically the Mary Boff Kill of movie topics. And 3 times a year, we do our Grading on a Curve specials, where we'll take 5 movies in a category and rank them in amongst themselves. You can find all of those on social media at Not That Badcast. There's also my music podcast, There Can Only Be One, where we take the discography of an artist and we go through and we make a playlist of our favorite songs, but you're only allowed 1 song per album. So if that's a 15 album discography, that's a 15 song playlist. And then you have to pick 1 song from those 15. And again, we also do a little sub show on that every other week called Spin Shuffle Skip. Same thing, Mary Boff Kill. I'm saying Boff because I do not want to be fined 1 credit for violation of the Verbal Moralities Act. So you can find that at Only One Cast, but you can find everything at notthatbadcast.com.
Okay, there you go. And Game Freakness, I just want to say this. Thank you so much for commenting, interacting with us. We do appreciate that here at Movie Lovers Tonight. Also, too, if you go back last year, like I said, in the podcast, for Black History Month, we ended up covering Rush Hour 1 and Rush Hour 2. So you guys can go on ahead and get both of those episodes right now on audio podcasts or on YouTube as well. Go on ahead and give me a 5-star rating and everything, and tell us what you think about Movie Lovers Tonight. Also, too, I'm going to be interviewing Wanda Sykes coming up here Probably next week. I also interview the director of Solo Mio. That is actually on the audio podcast right now. And also the review is also on YouTube. So check that out. But yeah, that's going to be it. Thank you again, Game Freakness. I do appreciate it. Thank you so much. And thank you, Jason, for joining me. I do appreciate it as always, my friend.
Be well, John.
Be well, Jason. All right, guys. Bye.